You are now about to be plugged in with Uncut Live with Kenneth Clark. Uncut Live with Kenneth Clark. We focus on mind, body, soul, and spirit, faith, God, religion. Y'all know who it is. It's your boy. Plug yourself in your seats and enjoy the ride. Greetings there. What's good, everyone? Welcome to another edition of Uncut Live with Kenneth Clark, where we keep it real, we keep it 100 on 1,000. Y'all know what our concentration is: mind, body, soul, and spirit. We cover topics from God, faith, religion, social issues, community. As I always say, we will not be paused, edited, or muted. Whatever you hear, you will hear, and however the cards lay, they lay. On this segment, though, there's a question that I'm just trying to figure out in the midst of everything that is going on. We have this COVID-19 pandemic that is affecting all of us. But not only in the midst of this pandemic of coronavirus affecting us, we have this ongoing massacre of gun violence that is hitting our communities in our inner urban cities. We have gun violence that's spiking up in Prince George's County, Maryland. We have gun violence that's hacking up in Richmond, Virginia. We've got gun violence that's spiking up in DC. And y'all already know how I am. I try to get out there in the community the best way that I can. You know, I'm doing some very fine work with the great beloved Dr. Aaron Coles. And I'm just like frustrated a little bit. So y'all always know what I like to do. I try to bring different guests, different people who are in a position, who have different professionals, and maybe they can help bring some kind of clarity to the scene. So today we have a guest. I'm not even going to introduce who the guest is. I'm gonna let the guest introduce who she is. She's someone of great courage, great. She's awesome. I'm going to turn it on over to her.
Hello, everyone. My name is Catrina Clark. I am the owner of my business called Louisa 57, where my tagline says, all about you. And then my tagline is, mind your mind. I am a certified life coach. I mentor, and I have my master's in psychology and my bachelor's in psychology. So psychology and mind, emotions, and being aware of what's going on and how people are acting is my life's work.
So, as you heard me say a few minutes ago, the question that's on the table is, what's going on and where have we gone wrong? So, I've sat in several meetings and they said the only way to end and stop this gun violence is to put more police. So they believe that more policing will get rid of the gun violence. I have heard that if you get out, get up off your tail, go out and vote, that would help stop gun violence. I've heard drop from being a Democrat and join on board to be a Republican because, you know, Republicans are here to make the inner communities better than what the Democrats are doing. I have heard so many different reasonings. You said in your background, in your business, your concentration is psychology. So yes. Can you enlighten me or help, maybe calm me down and figure out what do you think is one of the reasons that's contributing to this gun violence? violence?
Okay. For one, I'm not going to calm you down because that's your passion. And secondly, I don't get into the politics of things because you have the good and the bad of all sides of politics. Whether someone's Democrat or Republican does not determine their mindset. It doesn't determine their mental processing of things.
Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear that? I mean, she just came in the door. Boom, boom, bang, bang. Can you say that one more time?
Can I say that one more time? I had to go back and retry. But I was saying someone's political status doesn't determine their mindset. It doesn't determine how they're going to think or they're going to act. Politics is one thing, but what someone is actually internally dealing with, and then their environment influencing how they're dealing with it. It doesn't matter who's the president and who's making the laws. It's something within that individual. And from my perspective and from talking to other people and from doing research, it's part of nature versus nurture. A number of communities are like that from generations past. So what happened 20 years ago is going to affect what's going to happen 20 years later. Truth be told, we are here where we are right now because of different things that have occurred in the past, whether it's been good or whether it's been bad. There are opportunities for other people to change that, but overall, it's not a big plethora of opportunities out there where, oh, you're in a bad neighborhood, okay, bring you out of this neighborhood. Even if you do something like that, that's where the nature versus nurture comes in. If you have been nurtured to think like this, if you have you nurtured to think like this, and because of what's around you is part of your nature now, just taking someone out of that environment and putting them somewhere else is not going to necessarily change them. It's a process. It's a deep process over time. And with the gun violence, people have not had an opportunity to know how to distinguish how to act. They haven't been groomed to say how to act. If you have lived in the projects, if you have lived in an environment where the only profession someone knows is working at a fast food place, dealing drugs, or prostitution, and you have children that see that and that's all they know, and the mother and father never changed that, cards going to fall where they fall. But most of the cards are going to be the same. The same hand that was dealt to them before is the same hand that they're going to continue to play over and over and over again.
Wow. So it's the mindset that we have to put onto the table,
right,
to start figuring out how we got here.
Exactly.
That's good. That's. I think that's probably been one of the most fabulous answers I have heard so far within the past 2 to 3 weeks, because I have literally, we've been to the point where we've been in meetings. I've been in a couple of meetings, and I have heard some of the berating, denigrative language that has come from even people that are in leadership, that is supposed to, you would think that by them being in leadership, that they will set the example for it. But what I noticed is they were not really leading in a way. They were just, oh, well, they're idiots. We got gun violence happening because they're stupid. These kids are picking up the guns and they're just stupid. And, they shoot them off, they're stupid. And I said something yesterday in a session, and I said sometimes that we move off of emotional impulse.
Yes.
And I think that also might be an indicator right there too that contributes to the gun violence too. You said something about people not being heard or there, or you made something in recognition of that, about people not being heard as far as their mind is concerned. So we have that understanding now that it's the mind. Why do you think it is so much of a taboo topic of discussion when we talk about mental health in relations to the Black community? Like I've heard individuals say, that's the white man's white man way of thinking. What do you think is contributing to that mindset? Or do you think it's just something that just...
So I actually, in my studies, had to do research on that. It's the Black community overall that thinks that, and then there are other ethnicities or nationalities that think that as well. And so in my research, like I said before, it's because of what previous generations have thought and taught. Yes, we have it more so now. I follow a lot of Black people that say Black health, mental health, that are talking about this. However, when I was growing up, it wasn't something that was talked about in my area. It wasn't talked about in my community. So some of these things that we consider tradition, this is one of these in the Black community where we don't talk about, oh, that's a white man's disease. Or that's a white man's science, or what did you say it was?
That's a white man's way of thinking.
Well, yeah, white man's way of thinking or treatment. It's because of how we've been raised. You gotta think about it. Black people, we were in Africa long time ago, in Africa. And even in Africa today, they don't practice in a lot of the countries in Africa still abide by not getting any type of mental health. So that was part of our tradition back then. And then when we forcefully came to the United States, that's going to cause mental disturbance. That was trauma. That's taking someone from one country to the next country and then being brutally assaulted, abused, and made to work to the point of dying and breaking up families and starving and rape. All these different things, that's trauma. That is mental and emotional trauma. However, we were already programmed from our ancestors back in the day. They didn't know anything about mental health medicine. They didn't know anything about it. And then when they start doing it, I had to learn the history of psychology. Black psychology didn't start really taking place until the 1980s. Can you believe that? The 1980s. Whereas psychology as a whole was starting to get pulled and getting funding and becoming something radical and research in the late 1800s. So you go from the late 1800s to 1980 when the Blacks, our community and our culture started getting more into psychology. That's years. That's decades. So you're talking about from when slavery started back in the 1500s. I believe it was 1500s. When slavery started in 1500s, 1600s, all the way to the end of the late 1800s. And then from the 1800s to the 1960s, it still took us time to get voting rights. So all of those hundreds of decades, even from the time when you said, okay, you're no longer slave, it still took another 100 years for us to realize that. And us to realize that, it took time for our mind and different people really adjusting to that and encouraging people to do that. So it was just a process over time. It's not what's going on in the Black communities in regards to gun violence and reacting out of emotion. It's because of what's happened over time.
So you really educated and dropped some real good nuggets that I think that is really important to understand. You mentioned about when the Black psychology started back in the 1980s, which I think that's really something that we, should really, keep in the forefront. That's really important. So what do you think is also why is y'all know how I do? We're gonna hit from all angles. So we have the gun violence issue. We talking about the mental health, the psychology piece to it. One of the things in the limelight of work that I do, as being a man of God, as being a pastor, that I serve in the realm of doing outreach with individuals. A lot of people know that if I have a resource or some type of way of plugging them in to get the supportive services that they need, that they call. So in the midst of my calling about less than 2 weeks ago, I encountered an individual that gave me a call and actually let me know that they were in need of mental health support services, and that they felt like they were in a cage, couldn't breathe, because where they were at, they was in a church, and basically pretty much it was, they were scrutinized. They were told that, they weren't saved if they were going to go seek mental health support services, that they wouldn't have the Holy Ghost. What do you think is and of course, I believe that is an abomination before the very pits. This outright wrong. I believe that God wants us to succeed in everything that includes the mind, body, soul, and spirit, and that whatever we have to do to get there in a healthy, constructive way, that we should be pushing for it. I guess probably have to walk through this together. What do you think causes those that are connected to the faith community of the church to view mental health as a taboo? Like it's like one of the worst. It seems like now it's like one of the worst sins that there is in connection with it. Like, what do you think? Do you think it's a misinterpretation of what they read in the Word, or do you think it's just the general synopsis of the way that society views mental health?
I think it's a combination of both, and then I also think that it is a big standpoint of where they are with their salvation, their personal salvation. If someone is, like, we've heard different stories of people who couldn't walk, who couldn't see, who were healed from cancer, and just their faith and their belief healed them. And then we have people that are in the Christian community who have these illnesses, who have cancer, who have mental health disease, who have a litany of other sicknesses, and they are seeking actual medical professional therapy. So a lot of it from the Christian community, when they say, oh, you just need to open up your faith more, you just need to elevate, they're coming from a point of being judgmental, and also from being a point of where they are with their salvation, and that's not fair. God says he has given each person their measure of faith. Whatever it takes for that person to expand their faith is their own personal walk, their own personal journey. I have a level of faith, you have a level of faith, and sometimes your level of faith goes a little higher because of who you've connected to help expand you on that. Someone who has mental health issues versus someone else who, quote unquote, is healed from their mental health issues because of their level of faith, has no right or authority to tell the other person, who is their brother or sister, how they should exercise their faith. Their faith may be connected to that medical professional who can expand their mind. And not everybody that's in the medical professional or the psychology or in the mental health field is of just a degreed person, a lot of them sought those professions by the direction of God. I'm a faith believer in God. I believe just as you believe. God told me to go this direction to get my certification and my degrees so that I could bring him to people. But sometimes for some, I shouldn't say sometimes, but for some, that also required for me to understand the science behind it. We get so scared when we get some of us get so scared when we hear science. We think of Scientology and things like that. Everything in nature is by God. God created it. So it is up to us to study it. And when we study it, we become professionals in it. We become anointed in it in a sense. And because of that anointing is how God wants us to help somebody else. So when someone says, oh, your faith isn't good enough, you just need to go get re-saved, you just need to go re-baptized, you're cutting them off from the connections of people that God has put into those professions, that God has anointed to learn that science so that God can use that person. Someone, just like the cases in the Bible with Jesus. Jesus used something in actual nature to heal a blind man. That man needs to have something in nature brought to him, and then that elevated his faith. He needed that one person, who was Jesus, to say, come here, let me put this in your eye. And I'm talking about when he healed the man with his own spit. He healed the man's eyesight with his own spit. That man needed that connection from Jesus. He needed that connection from that walking, breathing man in order to connect him to elevate his faith. So to me, the misconception in the church community when they say, oh, you have problems with your faith, that's why you're dealing with mental health issues, you this, you that, they're not really allowing the person to be connected to the source of their healing, regardless of whatever it is that they are dealing with. One of my things that I say, without your mind, what do you have? You need your mind. You need that. It's with the mind that we serve Christ. And the devil knows that. That's why there are some people, he comes against their mind intentionally, and he comes against their mind hard. And that's why it is those that are anointed to study and know that, to be put into the path of those that are suffering in that area.
And for those who are watching this segment right here, please feel free to reach out to me on Instagram, Change Agent Now Forever. I do have access to mental health support services to plug you in to make sure that you can receive the necessary supportive services that you need, in particular through the DMV region, DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Please, if you find yourself in a mental disposition, please make sure that you seek out for help. God desires that we be prosperous in our mind, body, soul, and spirit. The same way, just like I have these glasses on, right? The same way that a person will take insulin, the same way that a person would take use contact lenses, the same way that a person would use eye drops to clear their eyes so that their vision can be better. The same way that you will take a multivitamin, the same way that you drink water, the same way that you replenish your body with Gatorade, the same way that we use all of these methods is on the same totem as it relates to mental health.
Yes.
Their mental health is not a color thing. Mental health is a human thing.
Mm.
Even the Lord and Savior went through a series of depression in the Garden of Gethsemane. Oh, I know all my scholars. I know I probably just messed y'all all up right there. But really take the time and go look up the experience of the Garden of Gethsemane. Go read about that intense time that Yeshua had. Because he was faced in a very hard, distressful moment. Go read about the great, honorable Job. Job in the Bible.
Yes.
You know, if we want to talk about how, you know, there is nothing new under the sun, at least that's a phrase that a lot of the older generation say a lot. But when it comes to mental health, if you go back spiritually, I know we just kind of shifted a little bit, but if you go back spiritually speaking, go back and look at the prophets of old.
Right.
Go back and look and see how that they had dealt with this very thing of depression. I'm going to say this, and this is going to be, I don't want to say off script, but just because you are a pastor, an apostle, a prophet, evangelist, teacher, school teacher, you could be a school teacher, you could be a fireman, you could be a police officer, you can be whatever your profession
Mother,
is.
father, daughter, sister, family member.
Mental health, you cannot and will not be successful the way that you should be if it's not attended to.
Right.
Mental health is a human thing. Just like we attend to our bodies, we need to also think about doing a mental health exam. Seriously, how do you debrief? How do you debrief the mind? If you are a counselor, and some of us have double professions where we're working 24 hours and we're doing multiple things, and we need different ways of debriefing. I'm going to be the very, very first one to tell you, mental health in the relations of the church has to be forefront. Everything here on Uncut Live with Kenneth Clark is to bring the community, to bring these topics of discussion on the table to talk about. We have so much stuff that is going on in our society. This pandemic right here is pulling a lot on us. And it doesn't necessarily mean that just because you find yourself being mentally distressed that you're scarred for life. We sometimes we have been socially engineered through the enemy to get us to not attend to the things that really matter. And that is mental health. So I'm saying this with my whole heart. My guest right here is saying this wholeheartedly. Attend to your mind.
Yep. Mind your mind. That's one of my goals, one of my programs with my organization is mind your mind. People say mind your business. You're intentionally focusing on something when you say mind your. So with your mind your mind, you're intentionally focusing on your mind. We have to put into practice steps, procedures. You were saying, what was the word you were saying? Not dissecting. What were you saying? When you were saying people work multiple jobs and they're dealing with different people, how is it?
Debriefing.
And then we, in our profession also, we say unpacking. How are you taking parts of what you've gone through or experienced or people's experiences, being pastors, being ministers, being leaders, being teachers, being parents, being students, you are seeing so many different things, dealing with so many different things, dealing with experiences and problems from other people. When that session or those moments are over with those people, that's something that you are still processing. And like me, I'm very open. I receive people's emotions and I take on their thought processes to understand what they are going through. So there are moments where we call unpacking, where you are taking portions of what you've experienced or heard and making it so that you can understand it, or making it so that you no longer hold on to it. And sometimes you need to be directed by somebody to help you to do that. And there's mental health professions out there, and then there's also those who are
What's good, everyone?
like me. I'm a
Welcome to
coach,
another
so I help
edition
you. I
of
coach you into doing those
Uncut
things.
Live with Kenneth Clark. So, we're going to take a brief pause for a second as we transition. Y'all stay tuned. We will be back momentarily. Mind, body, soul, and spirit. We cover topics. So, as we just had a brief momentary pause for a 2nd, working out some technical difficulties. Can you, would you mind sharing with the audience some a way that people could get in contact with you as it relates to this what you have to offer as you help the community and let the viewers know?
Sure, you can definitely follow my Instagram page. It is I am Louisa57, so that's the letter I, AM, LOUISA 57. And then you can also email me too, the same name, I am Louisa57@gmail.com. I'm currently in the works to get a website going so that I can set up, people can schedule to set up appointments, to get maybe a 30-minute free session with me to talk about what it is that I can do and how I could possibly help you. And then of course I'm always out in the community doing different things, so you'll see me out and about. If you want, looking for someone to help you spur the movement on for mental health, at least getting the conversation started, please reach out to me. Shoot me an email, follow me on Instagram, shoot me a message. I'm building my social media up, getting this marketing thing down, and just looking to expand this for other people, because like you said, it's kind of taboo in some areas still, and that's something that, even as I confess, was for me too. It was taboo. I'm studying it, but it's like yeah, I'm studying it to know about it, but am I applying it? And now I realize the importance of applying it into my own life, because if I'm not well and equipped mentally and emotionally, there's no way that I can help other people. And I think that's a tip that I'm going to give people, is in order for you to do for others, you must do for yourself first. So take that to heart. You must do for yourself first. A doctor cannot operate on anybody until that doctor commits 4 to 12 years of study in order to do that. So you want to be for others. You want to be a better wife, a better husband, a better mother, better at your job or profession. Everybody has moments when their mind can get overwhelmingly weak. Your mind can be your worst enemy at times. So do what you need to do to confront that thing. And it may not necessarily have to be a professional psychologist or a psychiatrist. It can be a coach. It can be a minister. It can be a preacher. It can be a counselor, a therapist. But please, wrapping this into the gun violence, it is up to us to make the progress now, to make the steps now, so that we can start permeating the change in our communities. like I said, it wasn't until the 80s where the Black community as a whole was starting to get more into the studying of psychology. And that's within my lifetime. That's within your lifetime. So in order to overtake certain things that's going on in our communities, it's up to us now to take certain steps.
So before, because I'm gonna make sure that that the viewers will get your Instagram information and whatnot. I want to add this to the piece. I said this is something that I actually put on my Instagram about 2 weeks ago, and I'm gonna say this, and it's gonna create the segue for you. So I said, us as Black men have got to, when it relates to gun violence, that us as Black men have got to be able to learn how to deal with those childhood traumas.
Yes.
Because sometimes with those childhood traumas are left unchecked, some of those behaviors, they're expressed in a way that we're going to see manifested into adulthood.
Yes.
And from adulthood, we're going to see those behaviors, exemplified through violent behavior. I don't care what nobody say. Mental health is a contributing factor as it relates to gun violence within the Black community. This is not to put down the Black community, but this right now in particular, in relations to what we're talking about right now, we're talking about our inner urban cities being negatively impacted through the gun violence. No, I know I have heard people say we can't use mental health as a crutch for the for the violence that's taken. People are just ruthless and reckless. You're right. Folks are being ruthless and they are being reckless. Think about this though. As Black men, if Black men are not taught how to deal with their emotions constructively, if they're constantly just been hit in the chest, shut up, smack, hit constantly 24/7, right? 24/7. You a 2-year-old might fall down, right? Might fall down and might say a cuss word, right? Because he got hurt. But as the parent, what we do, we smack him. And we don't just tap him. A lot of us, it's even used in our language.
Yes.
It's used in our language. I beat that. We say, I beat that ass. I beat my son. I caved his chest in. Oh, I ain't going for that. Just remember, words have power.
Yes.
Be careful. Because you don't want to raise your child up in a way where you're seeing behavior that is not healthy for himself or healthy for those that surround him. And what I'm simply saying is, Black men have got to start dealing with the mental behavior, not just the mindset, because there's a mental capacity, there's a connection between the behavior too. Because see, if the mind is not right, then the heart, which is the engine, actions are going to come from the heart. I don't care what nobody say. You got the mind right here, you got the heart right here. The action's going to come out from the heart.
Yes.
So if the mind is not in the proper place, the heart is going to lead where the mind is. Oh, I ain't trying to preach. But the heart is going to lead where the mind is. You get what I'm saying? So I talked about the men. Because I've noticed in this limelight of work too, we have come across some gun violence that's even been attributed with women. So
Yes, I will touch on that briefly as well. That's something that I studied too in my past 4 years of studying psychology. I had to do a research on. So I did research on the mindset and mental health in regards to different diverse communities, and then did research on the path that young girls are taking now, how young girls are having connections to gang affiliations younger and more so now. And with gang affiliations, that becomes a segue to acting out and with violence, having guns. And so that right there is something that's starting to permeate the society as well too. And so your question was what and how do we get
So because I like to blend those perspectives, because somebody will say, well, I heard you talk about the men, but I ain't, and Kenneth, it's some young women out there,
and it is,
so I let somebody who,
and it is women ourselves, those of us that see these things coming up with our young women and within ourselves as well. We have to be the ones to make it more vocal and acceptable. Vocal and acceptable as far as knowing that it's there and as far as saying that I'm getting help for this. The opinions of others is the best, what's the word that I want to say? Is the best way of marketing. It's just like if you go to a restaurant and you post on social media, I went to this restaurant, and 5 of your friends see it and they go and then they post and they post and they post. The same thing with mental health. You are experiencing something, you're not sure how you're going to deal with it, or you've experienced something and you're in a process of getting over it. Share what you're going through and how you are overcoming. Put shame away. Put shame away. You are not shamed. You are only shamed when it's something that you have experienced, you've got treatment from, or going through treatment, and you don't share it with others. Then that's shame. Then that's shame on you. Get over the shame, get over the embarrassment, and accept the new you. Accept the you that is going to be coming from that experience, that is coming from that process, that's going through that process. Share it with others. Be an advocate for somebody else that needs it. Women, we like to dress, style ourselves, do various things that we see other women do. Women want to have breast surgeries and augmentation, straighten their hair, get this wig, get your nails done this way, go to this shop, do that, do these various things. I want it to be popular to say, oh my, guess what I did? I talked to my therapist today. I talked to my coach today. Oh boy, it's been 2 weeks and I feel so great about me transforming from how I was 2 weeks ago and how I am now. Girl, I almost committed suicide, but I called this national hotline number, and since I called that number, I am feeling so much better. I now see life differently. The things I thought then as compared to what I think now, girl, I am lit. Mental health is wealth. Use that hashtag. Mental health is wealth. And that means that's a lot that's in that hashtag. Mental health is wealth, because when your mind is right, you can put yourself in position to make wealth. When your mind is right, everything seems higher and better for you. Mental health is your own body's wealth. Just like you said, the mind is connected to the heart. And your actions are led by what's in your heart. The mind is the engine. The heart is the engine, but the mind is the fuel. There are some cars out here that cannot use premium gas, or that can only use premium gas. You put the wrong gas in there, it messes with the engine. Then you have a problem. Think of your mind as the premium gas for your heart. And think about your action as your car, the vehicle that you are taking to get through this life. Get your mind right.
So, before we closing out, y'all know yours truly, Kenneth Clark. You can reach me on Instagram. Instagram page is Change Agent Now Forever. That is one whole compound word. Change Agent Now Forever. And these types of conversations of discussion need to continually to be had and to be discussed. Please feel free to make sure you stay plugged in with Uncut Live with Kenneth Clark. As Uncut Live with Kenneth Clark will be bringing you multiple information and bringing you different people from different professions or backgrounds that have skill set, knowledge, and training to help start combating these issues and creating that segue for change. As you heard us discuss earlier, in reality, mental health is not, it's not so much of a political thing. It's not so much of a moral thing. Mm-hmm. It's the fact that mental health is a human thing. Yes. And once we see mental health as a human thing, we as beloved people can see different and greater changes in our society. Please, if nothing we have said from this segment, I want you to hear this. Don't suffer in silence.
Yes, please.
If you need somebody to talk to, if you need someone, if you find yourself where you're in a mental frenzy or mental disposition, do not allow the negative naysayers. Sometimes the people that judge people with mental health, believe it or not, they need it themselves. Yeah. And they don't know how to go about saying that they need that help. In fear of the fact of either how will society view them, or sometimes, believe it or not, sometimes we can be our own worst critic. Yeah. I want to make sure that people are plugged in with the guests that I bring on here. So before closing out, can you make sure that the people have your way of getting in contact with you?
Yes, just like you can follow my Instagram page. It's I am Louisa57. So that's IAMLOUISA, the number 5, the number 7. And then it's also that same I am Louisa57@gmail.com. And like I said, I'm looking to just partner with people or just help promote mental health. Mental health is wealth, all about you. Because if your mind isn't right, then you aren't right. So definitely reach out and follow me, because I am on this path to help bring awareness to mental health and then do my part to keep myself mentally healthy and to help others be mentally healthy.
And as we sound the clarion call, mental health matters. Mental health matters. You are somebody. You are a Victorian. You are greatly, fearfully, wonderfully made in the image and likeness of God. Whatever you may be going through at this present time, this too shall pass. God is with you. Stay focused. Stay focused. Mind your mind. Mental health is wealth. Mental health matters. All right, y'all. Peace and blessings.